Hello, hello. Sylph, Dominic, Hawkins coming to you live from Energywork Dojo on... Oh, I should always look up the date before I do this. Oh, Wednesday, the 27th of May, 2020. There you go. If only I could add in sevens, and I remembered it was the 20th last week. So I hope that you've had a really good week. Sorry I'm a few minutes late. I was recording another video. What? Those of you who joined us for Friday night, thanks for bearing with us. That was fun. The way that all worked out in the end, it was really enjoyable at the end of the day. Obviously we are still going through this process. We don't yet have dates and times and all that jazz for returning to some physical study and training. So the videos continue, but I am hoping that even when we are given the go-ahead to resume some classes at the dojo with social distancing, whatever that will entail, I will be continuing to video, say, these meditation sessions. There'll just be an audience, and we'll put them up on the page. I'm aware that not everyone will be able to return back slowly over the weeks and months. You've all got your own personal situations and lives. Some of you are caring for elderly parents and such. So my hope is that we can still provide these videos, the Wednesday night meditation and breathwork videos, the Energywork videos, as well as Friday night philosophy and theory. So hopefully it'll just continue. Maybe we'll get to like session, I don't know, I'll have to start expanding my Roman numerals. MCCF. I think that's a bit crazy. What else is going on? Oh yeah. No other particular news. Life's good. Things are good. I hope that you've had a good week. Let's get straight into it. So tonight's session, we're going to breeze very quickly over our usual 5-stage sense observation. You know, the things we can hear, the things we can smell, the things we can taste, things we can feel, body sensation, the things we can see. And then fly from that into some breath observation. If you were watching last Wednesday, hopefully you were, there'll be a quiz and a written exam on this back at the dojo. Well, not too black belt. If you were with us with me last Wednesday, you hopefully we would have taken you through the experience of being able to focus on breath, and then the inward and the outward breath, observing the inward change in the body, and then all of a sudden hold the breath and maintain the breath, and immediately the observation sensation of the beating of the heart comes to the foreground. I was going to say comes to foreplay, that's not what I meant. So the heartbeat becomes the next most obvious physical sensation. And like in the way that we hold your breath to stop the breath, I don't recommend, just stopping the heartbeat to find out what else is going on. There's other ways around that, but thumbs up for trying. As we get into it, we'll just find a way that you're settled. For this activity, what I'd like you to do, I don't know if you're standing or sitting or you listen to this in podcast in 1,000 years from now, however it is, I want you to I'm sitting in Seiza currently, but what I actually want you to do, I want you to find a way of sitting that's going to put very specific pressure on a very specific part of your body. So I'm sitting in Seiza, I've got like a very generalized pressure. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move into Fudosa. And so that way I've got my left foot under my center, and I've got my left foot directly under perineum, under the center of the spine. And so what I'm keen to find out, and you can do this if you're sitting on a chair, move around or sit on put one foot up or sit cross-legged or something. If you're standing, really find, maybe put all the weight on your heel, for example, something like that. Because what we want to do, I want to really highlight a very specific point of observation on the physical. We'll do that in a minute. So you can do this eyes open or closed, entirely up to you, in the privacy of your own home. I don't know what you're doing. As you're breathing in and out, we begin by breathing in, taking breath in through the nose, down into the belly, all the way into the belly, expanding the lower part of the ribs, the diaphragm, stretching. The breath stretches the diaphragm, stretches the muscles around the back of the kidneys, the side of the ribs, and up, and opens up the chest. Reforms and shapes the trunk, and then outward breath, the breath outward exhalation through the mouth. Tongue sits on the roof of the mouth, behind the top two front teeth. I never tell you why in these videos. And then you breathe in and out, that's for a different time. Breathing in and out. In this breath, I want you to breathe so that each breath fully inflates the lung as much as you are capable, or even realize you're capable of doing, so that it feels like you're made of a balloon and you are absolutely about to burst. But don't hold the breath. Just breathe right into the point where it's done, and then exhale and continue. As we breathe in and out and in and out and in and out. Should be shaping the trunk, yeah? Breathing in and out and in and out, and just let go of the breath. All right, so that kind of breath, that forced breath in, really forced breath, it shapes the trunk and the chest and the abdomen. And it does so that if a lot of people do this here, we sit down to start meditation, and oh yes, and we have to have a very specific way. You know, we seem to have thought that if we follow a specific method, if we apply force to our sinew, we'll pull ourselves together and then achieve the outcome. And that's just not true. Like, you know, if you concentrate on something, why do you scrunch up your face? Like, is any of this muscle contortion really assisting you in problem solving, I don't know, the mathematical question, or the, you know, you're building a shelf and you're like we do it, I know, but is it useful at all? Like, does it really have a benefit other than just an anchor for applying focus in one point? Couldn't you just train yourself to go, and then apply focus in one point? So such the same with this body shape. Sometimes, and you see it all the time, we get, and you know, I did this when I started. You know, I saw movies of Eastern meditation, Kung Fu people sitting, Shaolin masters on the top of a mountain. They look very straight. So I thought, I better make myself very straight. When you're very straight, it's very hard to breathe into your diaphragm in a natural way. It doesn't quite work, you know. You end up just contorting the body and you kind of look like one of those weird blow-up dolls. Yeah. So what I want to do instead is I want to actually find a natural rhythmic process for my breath that I can continue naturally in the background, because I'm going to be busy doing other stuff. At this point, we're at like session 9 or 10 by now. You can't still be having to think about breathing. You need to have left that behind. You need to have moved on to just breathing in the background in full breaths and being able to devote your mental attentions to the meditation itself. That's the work. That's the practice. Yeah, we can all breathe. Otherwise, it's going to be a very short-lived experience for you. So it's more like, okay, let the breath shape you in a way that doesn't take much attention, but is really fulfilling. So we go again. You're breathing in and out. Rest the head over the shoulders over the hips. And I know that you're still sitting in maybe a difficult way. I'm still sitting on that left foot. Don't worry, that foot is really letting me know that it's there. We're going to use that in a minute. Breathing in and out. All right. Eyes open or closed. Taking your attention to the sounds that you can hear. We'll focus first on the sounds we can hear directly around us, within a few meters of our body. Breathing in and out. Sound of the breath should become immediately apparent. Breathing in and out. Five breaths in total. Oh, pardon me. All right. Good yawn there. Softening the eyes. Now, softening the focus there. So now we're going to move to the things we can smell. So continuing the breath. Smelling deeply. You should be filling up your lungs with breath. And just looking at the observation of the smell sensation. Alright, now moving to observe the sensation of taste. As you breathe in, you're now going to hold your breath for 2 or 3 seconds in the middle. A big breath in and hold. Taste, observe taste, and then breathe out. Breathe in, hold, taste, observe taste, breathe out. 5 times, off we go. Breathing in. And holding the breath for a few seconds, tasting, observing. Breathing out. Breathing in. Holding, observing taste. Breathing out. Breathing in. Holding, observing. Breathing out. Breathing in. Holding, observing. Breathing out. Now taking your attention to the physical sensation. You want to take your mind right down into this area that you chose before. So I'm sitting in footer, so I'm sitting on that left foot. I can take all of my attention into that one spot. However you're standing or sitting, hopefully as I requested at the start of the video, you're sitting in such a way that applies immense pressure to a localized part of your body, the body weight where it meets the ground. We're going to observe that one very, very heightened area. 5 breaths. Breathing in and out. I want you to do nothing more than just take your mind to that spot and watch that spot mentally. Observe what the division of experience is under your gaze. 5 breaths, eyes open or closed, off we go. Breathing in and out. Second breath. Third breath. Fourth breath. Fifth breath. And just letting go of that observation. And now taking your focus to the vision, the sight, visual sensation. Eyes open or closed. If closed, the light maybe, the colours behind the eyelids, the phosphors behind the eyes, or the projection of imagination in the back of the eyelids, visions. If eyes open, then just softly observing into the background. So I have a wall behind me, behind the iPad here at the dojo. I'm just softly looking into the distance and my peripheral vision comes into play. So eyes open or closed, whichever you choose. 5 breaths, just softly looking. Not at detail, but just at your experience. If your eyes are open, I want you to just watch your periphery without moving the center of your eyes. Breathing in, 5 breaths, off we go. I'm not counting the breaths for you this time. So in your own pace, at your own pace. Okay, just softening your attention there. Hello to those that just joined us recently. So, as we've gone through the last 5 practices, these 5 activities, last 5-10 minutes, we've been working through the 5 sense observations, the things we could hear, the things we could smell, the things we could taste, things we can feel in the physical sensation, and things we can see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, had to count then. And if you've been doing this for 2 months with me now, or before longer, or you have done this in the past, you would have found that immediately we closed our eyes and we began to observe things we could hear. The sense of information, the audible information, just went through the roof. Yeah, we did that in a close quarters. The observation of the sound of your breath should have been almost deafening, ear-splitting. How loud the sound of your own breathing is when you actually listen to it. And when you're just going about your day, I bet you don't ever hear your own breathing. Same to the things you can smell. The smells that were available, the scents that were available, that are just details there waiting to be discovered in the surrounding. Maybe you have incense. Maybe there's the smell of dinner that was cooking. Or maybe you've got a cup of tea and you can just smell the fragrances from the tea, on the table in front of you, or whatever it is. Maybe you just laid some really lovely chicken manure out in your garden and it's just pungent as all can be. As we moved into taste, the experience of taste, you realise that you can still taste the cup of tea you had 6 hours ago, let alone the dinner, maybe last night's meal. The experience, the physical sensation, as I wanted you to put a lot of pressure on a very specific part of the body there, hopefully you were able to find that the experience of general pressure turned into pulsing experiences. That's usually the first of the observable points there, a sense of pulsing. So you get this observation of nerve response almost moving with the blood or the pulse. And then beyond that, if it divides further, the physical sensation, maybe the experience of things like tingling or sharpness, or what you called pressure turned into something like throbbing and cold, for example. And I'll talk about these later in the video. And then the last one, this visual observation, eyes open or closed. Hopefully it was that if your eyes were closed, you started to find the shapes and the visions projected onto the back of the eyelids, or the colour of the light shine through the eyelids, that warm red glow, would shape and twist and form, and there would be shadowy sections that would come and go and rise and fall. If your eyes were open and you're observing the peripheral vision but keeping your pupils fixed forward, what you would have found is like a lensing effect, and hopefully this sense of focus change, so that not in such a way that the distance that you're looking at, the whatever, the wall, the window, not in a way that it would go blurry, but in a way that you can feel almost the way that you retract your mental clarity from the forward vision, and it expands into the sideways vision, into the peripheral vision. And that this process, you can feel as you mentally observe, you're focusing on the peripheral, you're focusing on the wall, you're focusing on the peripheral. As you do that, you can almost gain a physical sensation of this forward and back movement in your mind. It's fascinating. So these 5 fundamental sensations that we're exploring experiences around, that's where you start. Reconnected. That's where you start with meditation, and it's from that point that you move forward. And if you want to take this to unbelievable God level, you just continue doing that. It's like a lot of people get into meditation and they go, but pretty soon, that's when all of the secrets are coming. I was winking with the wrong eye then. Clink, clink, clink. I know he's just patting us out for this. It's just because this is for the beginners, but I'm pretty sure that next week we'll get into invisibility and levitation. And people we fool ourselves, probably because it's we've seen this in anime and movies, and it's written about in mysticism. We fool ourselves into thinking that there's anything more to the meditative experience than that. Now, there might be transcendental experiences that occur and mystical experiences that occur to us as some side effects of meditation, but that is not the purpose of meditation and has nothing to do with meditation. They're called siddhi. They're separate. They're like the mystical experiences that are the byproducts of the abilities that the human has, yeah, all this heightened hearing and heightened blood circulation experiences. And if you want to engage me in conversation about my own experiences of that, I'm happy to dialogue, but this isn't the video for that. So what I find is that we get to meditation, a lot of people get kind of led off the path with it because they get it 2 months in and they're like, where's like, I can't shoot lightning bolts out of my hands. Damn. All the anime lied to me. What am I even here for? I throw this in and just take up plumbing. It's like, you were misunderstanding the goal of meditation. Maybe it's possible for you to shoot lightning bolts out of your hands. You let me know when that happens. But that wasn't what meditation was for. Meditation, in and of itself, is to observe. And that's and it's as boring as it sounds, and boring not in the sense of tedious or agitating. Boring in the sense that when you observe what is the processes and the rhythms of that which are happening around us, the processes of just being alive, the experiences of the cosmosing, the universe is just universing, the wall's just walling, the iPad's iPadding, I'm just meing. These processes, these rhythms, well, they're not out of the ordinary. They just fall into the backdrop of the normal, the normacy of that which is always going on. And so they become boring by the fact that they don't have a contrast. They form the backdrop. And then something comes in front of it that's exciting, but the backdrop's just the backdrop. And so the soundscapes, the visions, the experiences, the breathing, like, would you say that your breathing is extremely exciting? Or is you don't even aware of your breathing mostly? And when you really watch it for a long time, it's very simple. It's nothing else going on. It's just in and out and in and out. And yet there are people who would devote their entire lifetimes to just meditating upon, so observing, breath and just exploring intricacies of breath, timing of breath, smoothness, rigidity of breath, angles of breath, areas of breath, body change through breath, breath as a philosophical representation, breath as a metaphor, and then their mind goes off into learning. And from that, all you're doing is just watching, breathing in and out. And so when you go and you present this to people on week 1, you lose half your students immediately. Yeah, because they get up and they decide to go instead to the school that advertises the Harry Potter shop of wands, mysticism, and meditation. And they take their money, and that's great, and then 6 months later they leave that as well, because they're not getting the effects, and the teacher says, yes, but next week we'll do the real meditation. And I hate to tell you, but the real meditation isn't coming, because real meditation is what you've been doing all along, and there's nothing else. So very important that you kind of laugh at yourself and just shake off the seriousness. That's why I said at the start of the video, there's no need to sit upright, very proper. You don't have to meditate in a very proper way. You just observe. You can lie down and be observing. You can be on a bus, holding your chin up on your fist, looking out the window, observing sights, sounds, experiences, breath. Don't fool yourself, and don't allow other people to convince you that that's not meditation. Sit down and quiz them on that first before you ever take on their opinions about you. And what you might find is that they have some sense of grandiose vision that meditations they divide into, like the secret inner world and then the unwashed mass. And some people use meditation as a way of clawing into a secret cult when you can just sit on the bus and just observe. You can just be eating dinner and actually taste. Try this. Maybe you've already eaten dinner tonight. I don't know. If you have dessert, do this for dessert. If not, do this for breakfast tomorrow. Next time you're eating something, stop after the first mouthful, and if you're talking to someone, stop talking to them. Like, say, sorry, hang on, I have something I have to do. My teacher said I have to do this. Actually focus on the tastes of the food. Just focus on the taste of the food. And just observe things. What is your experience of satisfaction like when you actually taste the taste? What's your experience of fullness like? How far does that food go? It's no longer just physical matter that you're putting inside your body. It's providing like a world of experiences, of sensations and amazing things. And you suddenly realize, I had no idea that there was peppercorn in, and then memories come back of, it reminds me of my grandmother's cooking, whatever, I'm just playing out a thing. What you will find is that it's in the normalcy, it's in the mundane that all the secrets are hidden in plain sight. And when you can find that, when you can actually be experiencing that, then life is very sweet. It doesn't mean that life is without pain or ups and downs. It just means that life in general is satisfying. It's like, wow, man, that's satisfying. Food is satisfying. The air is satisfying. It has smell. It has vitality. It has quality. Yeah, the relationships you develop with other human beings are satisfying, deeply satisfying. Your experience of your body is satisfying. Do this next time. I don't know if you're doing. Maybe you do some fitness. You're doing some push-ups there. You're doing some core, some. We're going to call it crab. Some fish. Yeah, fish holding. I don't know what crab is. Then if you've got an area of the body that's really calling out physical sensation to you because you're holding that fish bowl or whatever, or that push-up position, next time you're doing that, take your mind right into the point, that absolute point. Take your mind into the muscle groups. Take your mind into the points of physical sensation. And what you will find is that all of a sudden, like magic, there's this incredible, vast satisfaction. It's probably the best word that I can give for it. It's like when something's wholesome. When you eat a really great meal and you just feel wholesomely well fed instead of just, you're really starving and you just had kind of all there was in the house was just a few pieces of a cracker. It's not satisfying. It's like it's nothing. It's 1% of what you could have had there. And you will usually find that generally your whole outlook on life just picks up. It's not because you've suddenly turned from a realist into an optimist. It's just because generally what you will find is that you are most filled with vitality, experience vitality, when you are alive. Makes sense. It's very hard to feel vital when you're dead. If you are just shunning the experience of the physical form, bit by bit by bit, effectively you're just dying. If you think about it, if you were to remove away all of the ability for the physical sensations to have any response, it's just you can do anything. You don't feel any emotional change. You feel no nervous system. There are no smells. There is no sound. There is no vision. There's no sensation of any kind. Well, it's probably a philosophical debate of whether or not at that point you've actually died. And there's some great criticism of those spiritual movements that purport to push this ideal of arriving at beyond the human experience. So a transcendentalism of the not just persona, not just transpersonal, but transmorphic, maybe transmaterial. This experience of not anything to do with the physical human experience. And there's criticisms of it in saying, well, if you get to the point where you feel no emotion about changes, you feel no temperature, you've numbed yourself to that degree, then are you really alive anymore? Has that, if that's what you devoted your life towards, and we're all going to die anyway, have you really just hastened that process? Now you just walk around in that process. And I'm not necessarily, I kind of share that criticism only because I find I get so much from the richness of life. It has given me so much. So let's do the next part of the meditations after that very brief rant. We did this last week. We started on this. We're going to take this a step further. We're now taking our observation to the experience of breathing, not any of the five senses on the outside, observing the outside experience, but instead all of those sensations internal in relationship to the breath. So as I breathe, I might be observing the sound of breathing, but on the inside of my physical form. So the junction of the nostrils, or out, like through the lips and the mouth. If I'm observing, and then tastes, maybe the smell of the air, the taste of the air. If I'm observing a physical sensation, it could be the stretching of ribs, but I actually want further internal in the lung cavity itself, like I want the actual membrane sensation. So I'm going to start by looking at the back of the throat. I'm pretty sure that very quickly you'll be able to discover you can actually, there's feeling sensation, physical sensation, on the inside back of the throat. Yeah? Not the outside. And then visually, that's hard to do. Just use your imagination to, do my eyes closed. Use your imagination to almost follow your breathing into the lung and then out. And you're trying to dwell, see if you can do this, paint a 3D image in your mind, in your imagination, as if you are a little speck in the air, in the breath, being drawn into the body, down into the depths of the lung cavity, and draw out in your mind in 3D shape what that might look like, what that adventure would look like as the speck. So we'll go through this. We'll start by breathing in through the nose, down into the belly. And we're observing breath from the inside of the body. Out through the mouth, in through the nose, out through the mouth, in through the nose, out through the mouth, if you haven't already, start observing the sensation as the breath passes your throat, the inside of your throat. It could be the back of your throat or the top, like the palate of the mouth. Yeah? There should be a temperature change and a sensation of motion of the air itself. On the in and the outward breath. And it can be quite trippy. I have had students who in the middle of this have suddenly felt like they're suffocating because it's such an odd experience. They've had to just kind of open their eyes and go, oh, and return to their normal breath. So just keep going. If something like that happens to you, just chill, shake out your focus and just look around the room. But just continue breathing. Tracing this inward breath and out breath down into the lung cavity. Pardon me. Breathing in. And now hold your breath. And I want you to look for the beating of your heart. Breathing out again. Just relax. We'll do another round of breathing. So breathing in. Breathing out. Breathing in. Holding your breath, looking for your heartbeat experience. Can you feel your heart beating inside your chest? Breathing out. Breathing in. Breathing out. Breathing in. Breathing out. Breathing in. Holding your breath, observing your heartbeat. And this time observing the pulse in different areas of your body. Breathing out. Back to normal breath. So just soften your focus. Hopefully what you're able to find is that as you got into the rhythm of your breathing, you really were able to experience sensations. So you can feel, first thing, most obvious thing should be the temperature. unless you're sitting in a room that's exactly the temperature of your internal body, in which case, lucky you, the dojo's cold. So I'm really vividly experience the sensation of the temperature difference of the air compared to the inside of my throat, the back of my throat. And then that leads to further observation of sensation. It's kind of like a seed, of crystal seed. It grows around the backs of the throat. And then strange textures and experiences where it's not the same sensation just all the way down. There's a difference to the side of the throat, the front of the throat, the back of the throat on the inside. And then maybe some experiences of the actual lung. If you can really use your imagination to penetrate the lung cavity, sometimes it can suddenly flip and it can really feel for a moment as if you are genuinely experiencing breathing from the inside out, if that makes sense. You can get this with your skin too. Really good meditation, really fun, like advanced level meditation skills. Meaning it's still observation, it's just observation in a really mind-bending kind of way. You can get to the point where you really observe the skin pulse and the sensation of the skin. Almost, you could say this, that the skin was breathing. Fascinating experiences, and we can lead on to them later. The holding of the breath super highlights the heartbeat. And then the heart beating becomes the next most obvious sensation in the trunk, possibly, unless you've got peristalsis and stuff going on that's really obvious, or you're about to throw up or something. So the heartbeat, that heart pounding sensation is really fun to feel, fun to experience, and you can really feel it there in the chest cavity. And what usually happens is next, immediately after that, the areas of pulse sensation become apparent. So I often find that then in the wrists, thumbs, fingers, throbbing in the ankles, maybe the what's it called, like not the big toe, but the webbing to the big toe. Certain areas that I find, certain pulsing, like in the sides of my neck and here, the front of the forehead. Sometimes even the eyes, and it can feel this weird sensation as if the eyes are pulsating. Yeah. What we're going to do now is we're going to just get back into our breath rhythm. We're not going to hold our breath anymore, but we're still going to look for and observe the sensation of the heart beating. Now that we've got a glimpse into what the sensation feels like, we might be able to return there, even with some distractions going on in the background, like the breathing process. So eyes open or closed, breathing in through your nose, down into your belly. Breathing out. Breathing in. Breathing out. Breathing in. Breathing out. Now observing your heart beating. Breathing in and out. Not at the same time. Continue breathing as you just start to observe your heartbeat. And if you find any pulsating sensations around the body, a couple more breaths. Now while you're in that practice of just breathing, experiencing your heart beating, continue this. I want you to just take all of your mental focus to the tips of your fingers while you keep breathing, experiencing your heart beating. Just observing tips of the fingers, maybe a tingling sensation, or a sensation of cold or hot, or a density, or a liquid feeling. Or you might have a very unique you sensation interpretation that I've never had. But breathing and feeling your heart beating in the background, aware of your heart beating, just focus on your fingertips, both hands all at the same time, all fingertips at the same time. And you will find some forms of sensation there. Just watch those as you breathe. You're just aware of your heart beating in the background. Don't mind me if I start swaying in the video. I've been told that I often start swaying when I do this. How can you feel in the fingertips while you keep up your rhythm of breath and the beating of your heart in the background of your mind? Continuing to breathe, continuing to just know and experience your heart beating in the background. You take all of your focus to your toes, all of your toes all at once, the tips of your toes, and just watch the experiences and the tips of your toes as you breathe in through your nose, down into your belly, and out through your mouth. What can you feel in the tips of the toes? Do any sensations become apparent to you? And I want you to listen to the sounds you can hear while breathing. Aware of your heart beating in the background. Experiencing the tingling of your toe tips in the background. And now listening to the sounds that you can hear. And as well, breathing and smelling and listening and feeling the heartbeat and the tingling of the toes and the breath in and out. And tasting. And the visions behind the eyelids. All at once, the breath in and out. The heart is beating, the pulsing sensation, observing the tingling in the toes, the smells, the tastes, and all that you can hear around you. The visions behind the eyelids. Dancing colours, shapes, and just watch all of these experiences at the same time. Pardon me. Definitely do this if you have trouble sleeping. Alright, just softening your focus and just opening your eyes and just chilling out from that whole experience. So, hopefully, I'll reset myself. Hopefully you were able to find that as you staged your way through those one by one, we began with the breath and the cycles of the breath in the rhythm. Then we began by moving into the experience of the heart beating, the heart itself. That gives way to this physical sensation, the pulse all through the body, maybe the wrists, the neck, the chest, the abdomen. There's a great pulse in the abdomen. The thighs, back of the knees, the ankles, etc. And then we took that focus, that physical sensation into the fingertips, just observing the fingertips. And then into the tips of the toes. And then on top of that, just keep stacking these layers of observing experience. It's like being able to turn on more and more taps. It's like, what can we hear? The sounds stack on top of that. Far-reaching. The smells, the tastes, the sights, visions behind the eyelids. And all of these experiences swirl together. Hopefully you're feeling quite full. A bit like, as if you've just had an incredible meal. Satisfaction of a really fantastic Christmas lunch. The opportunities, as I was saying half an hour ago, the opportunities in meditation for us when we just approach them as a human being. Don't approach them as an anime character. Don't approach them as a deity in stories or mythology. Don't approach meditation from a godly perspective, or don't even approach meditation from a spiritual perspective. Don't go looking for something, because you will be disappointed with what you find. What you will find will be unbelievably heartening and humanizing and uplifting and satisfying and one of the most profound experiences that you could possibly find just by doing nothing. But it won't match any of the criteria that you thought you were looking for. If you go in with a preconception of how you think you want to feel, that's like going out in the world and listening for a sound you want to hear. That's really useful if you have a very specific outcome that you want and you're not exploring, but you're needing to rendezvous with something that you already know, yet someone has told you that they will call you at a certain time. And so you're at that time, a minute before that time, your ears are reaching out for the sound of the telephone. And when it rings, the sound you were looking for. If you just walk out on a busy street in the middle of, maybe in February, in the middle of Melbourne, and you just listen, there's just layer upon layer upon layer of sound experience. If you listen for something in really specific, then you're not out exploring the soundscape. You're hesitantly anticipating a moment or an event that will play out. And that's fine, but don't con yourself into thinking that you're observing sensation. If you're sitting in your meditation and you're looking for an experience, then you're conning yourself into thinking that you're experiencing any form of meditation. Very good friend of mine, I won't mention his name, lovely man. He's been running sweat lodges for decades. And I probably heard this, he probably told me this like 10 years ago or 8 years ago or something. when we were in a lodge together. And the spirit lodges are very intense, very interesting forms of experience. Super heightened heat, like deliriously hot and textural, like you probably, like in some of them you're lying in mud on fire or feeling like you're effectively on fire. They're fascinating in the dark, fascinating textures of experience, really highlighting all these individualized qualities. And he used to run these lodges really, they were fantastic, the experiences. And he was telling me we were laughing over dinner one night after one of these lodges. We used to do this together. He was telling me that one of his very first experiences, so he followed a particular South American tradition of something called vision questing. And it was, I don't know the name of the tribe that it was from, Native American, I said South American, a Native American vision quest. He had devoted a lot of time, he spent time in America, he was in touch with members of these, like living members of these tribes, and he was being initiated into their meditation practices and their rituals. And he said that there was one where they sent him out and it was a 4-day sit in the desert, no food, no water, and a circle's drawn in the sand, no bigger than maybe 1 square meter. And that's his circle, and he's not allowed to leave that circle for 4 days. And everything that has to happen in his life has to happen within or at the edges of that circle. And that's it. And they leave him, and they'll come back for him in 4 days. And if he's still there, then great. And if all they find is a corpse, then oh well. He pretty much poised it to me in that way. And great story, good storyteller. Anyway, he said that it took him about 3.5 days, and I can so relate to this. It took him about 3.5 days to even begin to actually just listen. He was there and he had this whole perception of like, he knows what it's going. He's looking at it, he's like, vision quests, great visions. He's going to have these hallucinating meditative experiences, and he's going to experience his body sensations in this. It's going to be something like he's never had before. And for 3 days, he was looking for these things that never happened. He never had these experiences. Yeah, like he just found agitation and frustration. Can you imagine sitting for 3 days? I had really great fun. I highly recommend the Vipassana sits to anyone who hasn't done them. I recommend as a fun. Don't take it too seriously. Go in, and if you happen to be someone who maybe doesn't have children, and you can devote 12 days of your life to silent meditation in a temple, a few hours drive away. Really recommend. If you've got kids and that's just not going to happen, oh well, it's not for you. Do it when they move out home. There's other ways of doing that. Just be with the children full time. Whew, that's hard. But what he was describing was like he just sat, he was watching, and he was looking for things, and he thought he was going to have these certain experiences, and he was looking for it, and it never came. And he was listening for it, he didn't hear what he thought he was going to hear, and all he found was like agitation. The agitation turned to frustration. The frustration eventually turned to like rage, hate. He said he was sitting in his little 1 square meter, just brimming with hate. He could feel, put his hands, he could feel the heat radiating off him of just like enraged, how enraged he was, this like trapped, like a prison of his own making. And 10 points to him, he was devoted to his experience. And he said the rage and the hate just suddenly vaporized into despair on the final day. At about like halfway through the final day, he had like 6 hours left before they were coming to get him. And he said all of a sudden it just kind of descended into despair, and he kind of just entered into this like immense depression for he doesn't know how long, maybe an hour or two. And then eventually he just kind of sat, and this despair and depression just kind of opened into this quietness. And he suddenly realized that he could just listen. Sounds funny now in reflection, but remember it took him like 4 days or 3 to get to that point. And he suddenly realized that he could hear so much. He said that it was as if he could hear the desert itself. It was so complex. He said the smell of the air was more filled with complexity. He didn't even know what they were. He's sitting in a desert. He's like, what is that smell? There were smells coming on the horizon, on the direction from the wind, that he couldn't imagine what those smells belonged to in the plants and the things around him. Yeah? The same thing, the tastes, this heightened sensation of taste. These are called siddhi, yeah? The mystical experiences that come. And they're byproducts, they're not the purpose, but they're byproducts of meditation. And he said that then, as he just was kind of drawn in like a siren, playing a harp on a rock. He was just this allure. He was drawn into this experience, having this almost personal relationship with the sounds, the smells, the tastes, all these tangible human experiences. He said the weight, he could feel like the tingling of all different parts of his body, right over his whole body, his face, his hands, his fingers, his legs. He could feel the air, the currents around him. And he didn't tell me whether his eyes were open or closed, but he just said, the colours were vivid. He said, and all of a sudden he had, and we discussed this at length, he and I, these profound realizations of some very key things in his life. Certain people, certain events, certain experiences, the meanings of certain experiences, the experience, how those experiences had shaped him as a person, how those experiences had shaped his character, what aspects of his character were false motivations. So he thought that he was motivated under these values and ideals, but actually he could see that certain aspects of his character and his motives were filled with conceit. And that all happened in that last little moment. He said the people came, the members that he was working with came, and they gathered him up at the end of this time, and he was just like almost. He said he was hysterical but quietly hysterical, which I could relate to. I know that feeling for myself. He was just, and he said that they at the end they go and they jump back in a car, just back in a car, and they drive off to wherever then they were. Having this big dinner, this banquet for him. And he said he's in the car, and the sounds of the car and the smells of the car are amazing, and the colours and the vision and just the interaction with other humans. He said everything, it was as if he'd just eaten, it was like being led into the candy shop. And we discussed that at length, because we both had really similar experiences, but come from very different methods. I've never gone out and sat in the desert for days at a time. I've had different experiences, and we spent a lot of time sharing these stories and finding common ground, and this fascination of where boring normalcy suddenly becomes ecstatic and becomes some of the most satisfying experiences. And it's what becomes immediately apparent is that the only thing that changed is you. The desert was just the desert. The smells are always there. Here we are, wherever you're seated now. The sound of the car driving by, whatever the sounds you can hear, they're always there. They're just going on, the happenings. The temperature, the smell, the breath, the sensations, they're always there. They aren't changing. It's us who change. And I'll finish off, we'll wrap up the meditation with one of my favorite quotes from Alan Watts, as he's presenting a dissertation on the New Testament. He's talking about some of Jesus's comments and criticisms to his disciples, talking about praying. What's that called? So funny, I have to grasp at this not as having not grown up in a religious background. I have to grasp at this from an academic level. Like saying thanks, so blessing the food. And this comment of Alan Watts, he says, you're blessing the food, you sit down, you close your eyes. Who do you think is being changed in that process? Because the food isn't getting any holier. It's you that are the one that is being transformed. And I'll leave it at that. I hope that tonight was good fun, useful, enjoyable, enlivening. I certainly feeling quite braced. I hope you're going to have a fantastic week ahead. I've got good things in store for you on Friday. I've started uploading more writings of mine to the page for more public content, Hoshinden stuff. And I've got some really good interviews that I've been having. I've started with some colleagues and wonderful friends and teachers of mine. They're going to go up on the page soon, so keep an eye out for that. Have an excellent evening. Lots of love to you all, and I will see you on Friday. Au revoir.